In today's video, we're going over the best dead zone settings you guys can use in Warzone 2 to get an unfair advantage when it comes to aim. Dead zone is probably one of the most important aspects when it comes to improving your aim and having much better aim assist and tracking in all of your gunfights. So if you guys are trying to improve your aim and become a much better player, you guys have come to the right place. We're gonna go over the best dead zone for you guys, as well as how you guys can find the perfect dead zone for your specific controller, because everyone has a different controller and you shouldn't copy these exact settings. So with that being said, if you guys do enjoy today's video and learn something new, make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe. And with that being said, let's go straight into the dead zone settings. Alrighty guys, to find the dead zone settings, you want to navigate over to your controller settings and go to the advanced section. You guys can see right here on inputs dead zone, this is where you control all of your dead zone settings for your controller. So you guys can see right here, I have these both set to 0. And the reason why is because having 0 dead zone in your right stick, left stick doesn't really matter, but the right stick is what's most important. Having 0 there is going to give you the most amount of aim assist, best tracking, and best snapping onto enemies' heads. 0-0 is very important. I've actually explained this in the last video on my aim assist settings, so if you guys want to learn more about aim assist, you guys can check that video out. But I highly recommend, if you guys can and don't have a ton of stick drift, you guys should use 0-0. Now to explain dead zone a little bit more further, dead zone is basically responsible for compensating for the stick drift you have in your controller. So let's just say my controller was really bad and it does all this and it's moved by itself. I probably want to increase my dead zone to compensate for that. So we're gonna put this up to, like, I don't know, 10, and now it probably will calm down a little bit. It wouldn't be as dramatic as it was before. The more you increase this number, the less drift you're gonna have, but also the more delay you're gonna have as well. When you try to look around, you're gonna be delayed slightly every time. So that's sort of the bad thing about having higher dead zone. It does help with stick drift, but it makes it more delayed. So if you guys don't have stick drift, I highly recommend you guys use 0. Even if it's a little bit, like if it's like this to where you're looking like this, that might not be too bad, because when you ADS and actually move it around, you can kind of get control of it. It's like this, when you're like going crazy and it's like really hard to control, that's when you probably want to turn it up. So if you guys want to find the best dead zone for your controller, I recommend you guys increase the values by 0.02 at a time. So let's just say this was really bad for me, I can't play on 0. You want to go ahead and increase this by 2 and just keep going up by 2 every time you test it out, just to see if it's going to be better. A lot of you guys might actually be able to play on 0.02 or 0.04 but not be able to play on 0, because it's just that much of a difference. But even playing on these low numbers is still really good compared to playing on what's usually default, which I believe is, I think, 10 or 15. When you first start out, everyone is at this dead zone, which is pretty delayed. It's pretty bad. So if you guys can, I recommend turning it down. And if you guys want to, you guys can turn your left trigger and right trigger down to 0 as well. This is going to be very useful. But if you guys don't actually use triggers, then this is not important. What I mean by that is I currently use flipped on for my R1 and R2s and L1s and L2s as well. So I use my bumpers to shoot and fire as well as ADS, and I use my R2 and L2 to use my equipment. So I actually have these flipped around, and the reason I did that is to have the fastest response time. If you guys use triggers instead of buttons, it's going to have a slower response time, because it's a trigger. The trigger doesn't, shoot right away. Just like a real trigger of a gun, you're going to pull on it, it's not going to shoot right away until you hit a certain point. So the same thing for your triggers. If you guys turn your dead zone down to 0, it's going to shoot immediately as it gets the input of the trigger being pushed. It can also be bad if you guys have a faulty trigger, so this can be good for controllers that are kind of busted, but if you guys have a decent controller, I recommend turning it down. If you guys do play flipped like me, you guys probably don't even need this at all. But those right there are the best dead zone settings for now. If you guys have any questions, make sure you guys comment them down below. And while you're in the comment section, go ahead and rate your controller from 1 to 10. 10 being the best and 1 being the worst. So I actually like to know how many players are experiencing issues with their controllers. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace, love, and understanding always.
Target down. Marching the rest of them. Enemy
sector.
Target down. Marking the rest of them. Top 25.
Hostile UAV in this sector.